Hello YouTubers, Tross here, and welcome back to some Satisfactory. Uh, we've done a lot here, and we're basically building everything in the game. And there isn't a major content update expected for a while, although there is an update expected later this week, which should fix the ghost train slash splitting train issue, and it also sounds like they're going to get cloud saves in the game. So while we wait for more content, I thought I'd make a kind of a tour of my factory. So here we are in the hub, where we started out in the first starting area, and we eventually built this factory here. Still don't actually have the walls on the top floor, but this factory I basically built, it was the first one I built. I was just basically building everything in the game, but not at a very efficient level. Basically, just one or two machines, unless more than that was needed. Basically, like, obviously you need more than one machine making wire if you're going to be making circuit boards and computers and supercomputers, which we are making here. But yeah. Got my hub, got my work shed. What is that actually? Workshop equipment. Equipment workshop. We got two. Are these impure? I think they're impure even. Two impure iron nodes here. There's a normal copper. Just. You can probably see the top of it right over there is a limestone. Eventually, there's another limestone over there. Those are two pure iron. And a few other things. This is actually colored differently. At some point, the colors got changed, but I wasn't here when that happened. I was at my second factory, which I'll be showing a bit later. And so I didn't notice right away when that occurred. I still have all the machines here. Like I have, these are the burner biomass burners, and I actually have 3 additional ones because that's how many I was using before I got coal. Apparently, I got myself stuck there. So let's look at how this started out. I basically first started just building a platform, and I built this machine here. I believe you would put leaves here and wood up in this top storage, and they would go to 2 separate lines that would turn this should be wood. Oh, there's even wood in there. And the leaves into biomass, and then each would run through here, turning the biomass into biofuel, which would then come up with a wacky belt, which I've since moved, because originally it was like going straight back over this, but to get the stairs in and the second floor I need to move it. But that comes down here into this storage, and these are all should be accessible from the windows out front here. Of course, I haven't used biofuel in forever. Next, we had some iron smelting, and we would be making plates here. That goes into a storage. Some more smelting here, which would get turned into rods, which would get turned into screws, which we're only using screws over here. I have a second, as I mentioned before, I have a second factory. It doesn't use screws at all. And it doesn't actually use rods either, although there are some rods being made just outside of it, so we can make things like the conveyor lifts and things like that. More rods here. And then down at the end here we have copper processing into wire, and into then cables. And that was pretty much it here. Well, I won't say pretty much it, but eventually, yeah, we then take some of the plates and screws and turn them into reinforced iron plates, and then combine those with some of the rods to make modular frames. But like I said, yeah, this was pretty much it for a while. This area back here was empty for quite a while until computers were added, at which point I added 2 machines here to make circuit boards, and then a manufacturer to make computers. This is in a slight depression because the manufacturers were a bit taller and wouldn't fit initially at that floor level, so I had to move it down one level to get them to fit. This was added way later because basically I just had space here, and this is actually producing beacons because I believe it's the Nobelisks that need beacons, or first needed beacons. But this space was empty until then. So we went up, made a second floor, and this was the floor for motors. And also, obviously, steel smelting. So we took some of the iron ore. This is actually coming in from a different area. There's two iron nodes basically over that way. Actually, I think where those truck stations are. And we're trucking them in. You can see the truck station here, and that one's I'm not actually sure what that one's bringing in, but that's bringing... Oh, I think that's the Caterium one. So that's bringing in the iron ore, and we're getting coal from nearby too, also being trucked in, I believe. And we would smelt here in the foundry. Notice just one foundry. Store some of it, and then turn the rest into pipes. We got 2 machines making pipes, I believe. Here we have the Caterium coming in, which then... Well, this is a whole separate process. Let's continue over here. We got copper from our pure node that we make, obviously, wire out of. The pipes and wire make our stators. Oh, it's not Caterium here. It's more iron. Some of the same iron. We're smelting, and we're basically got a 5-to-3 splitter here, so we can make rods. Enough rods to make into screws. And then the screws and rods, the leftover rods and the screws, make rotors. And then we have a grand total of 1 machine, then taking the rotors and stators. And we are making 10 rotors and 10 stators per minute, so we can make a grand total of 5 motors per minute here. Yeah, but basically, yeah, this was all just barely enough for what we're doing. We had some additional screw production here that goes downstairs to help supplement for the production of the frames, because that machine down there for the frames wasn't running at full speed. As you see, we have the frames coming here because we have over here another frame assembly, and this then goes and helps feed up here. We're making heavy modular frames. In fact, we're using the alternate recipe here. Originally, we weren't using the alternate recipe, but once we did get it, we switched it. This was, well, this was our heavy modular frame floor, or is. And here we make concrete. We got actually 4 machines. I think I started off with 2, but that wasn't nearly enough. And then we got some more steel smelting here. Originally, a lot of this was going into iron beams that were then making cased iron beams, but now it's been switched to mostly pipes. We are still making some iron beams. In fact, here we have should be pipes on top, and yeah, iron beams at the bottom, steel beams, iron beams, steel beams. Yeah, because this is steel we're making. So now with the alternate recipe for the industrial beams, we're making a lot more of them, and some are getting stored here. Well, they get temporarily stored and then input into the heavy modular frame production. Here's the deuterium coming in here, and this is copper, and we are smelting the deuterium with these 2 smelters. We're smelting copper here with 2 smelters, and that supplies 4 quick wire manufacturers. In fact, we're making 360 quick wire per minute, which was quite fast at the time. So we had, this was probably one of the Mark IV belts I had. So this was all preparing for computer production, which is on the next floor up. And yeah, well, now we're bringing in plastic and rubber. We had to go out and get some oil at this point. And we have 3 circuit board manufacturers here using the alternate recipe. At this point, I had done some exploring and had quite a few alternate recipes. So we got our computers, or circuit boards here. Here we're making cable with the alternate recipe. Probably wouldn't do that now just because rubber is somewhat limited resource. You can easily make enough wire to make cable the normal way and save your rubber for something more important, but you know, I was trying things out. So we had 2 manufacturers here making computers, in addition to the one below. On the first floor, that just made computers and they were stored. Here we're making the high-speed connectors, and then originally we had 1 assembler here for AI limiters, and that would all feed into this manufacturer here for supercomputers. At this point, that was what was in the game. And so not that I didn't know what to do, but I thought the next best thing, since we were just making, like, this didn't even run at full speed, it probably did 1.5 per minute instead of 1.875. I figured, let's go out and start a new factory in the same world that did everything, well, maybe not as efficiently as possible, but we would try to hit high numbers of items per minute. And so that's what I did. Let me pull up the map in game here. You know what? Even better, I will pull up this map here, which is loaded from my save. So this is my main factory here. We can... Ooh. So not quite square building. This is where we've been. There are 2 or 3 more floors. But basically, yeah, here's, like, this is the iron that I said we were trucking in. We were getting coal from over here. Our deuterium is coming in from over here. And these are still all brought in with the trucks or the sugar cubes. For oil, we trucked all the way out here. This is a little bit more built, I will say quite a bit more built up than it was originally. But we're all keeping to this southern part of the map, except for, like I said, go exploring for, hard drives and things like that. So this is the second factory. We'll be there a little later. So my original plan for this second factory would be produce motors at 90 per minute, and then produce supercomputers and heavy modular frames at 24 a minute each. To make this possible, there are 4 pure iron nodes here. There's 2 on this side and 2 on this side, I believe. Or it's 3 and 1. Maybe that's, yeah, it's 3 and 1. And then right here is 2 pure copper nodes. And then using the alternate, there's an alternate iron ingot recipe. You need, you could take 2 of these and 1 copper and produce basically, well, at that time it was 6 450 Mark IV belts. Actually, because the Mark IV belts were originally 450 per minute. They've since been bumped up to 480 per minute. So, yeah, and then I did that twice, so we were producing quite a lot of iron, which would be feeding all the production. And then there's oil nearby, and there's Caterium not too far. This is a Caterium node, and there is... there's 2. This was pure. There's 2 other impure, but that's still good. and basically just a lot of good resources around here in the northern forest. But while there was oil here, the other nearest oil was over here. That's since been moved to up here. But before it was moved, I decided to use the oil over here. There's 3 pure oil nodes. 4 pure oil nodes. So 3 of them I am turning into plastic and 1 into rubber, because that's about the ratio I needed at that time. Although I'm also now getting a lot of this oil here and turning it into rubber and, well, belting it back, although I am currently set up to do trains. But later, nuclear was added, and this is a huge nuclear power plant, which is basically supplying all my power and then some. If I hit statistics here, like, I'm currently using 16 gigawatts, and I'm producing 370, and even if everything was running, I'd only be using 60. So I'm oversupplying my power by 6 times, even if every machine turned on at the same time. But let's go back in the game. I'll show the rest of the floors of this factory, and then we'll look at... we'll go over to this nuclear power plant briefly. We'll stop by here, and then we'll take a tour of the factory number 2. Yeah, as you can see, I do have lots of trucks and trains still moving around, getting materials. Well, the trucks are mostly for this factory. There's really no trains that stop here except my personal train. So, after this floor, that is when the Nobelisk detonators and the machine guns were added. So we have a, this is the explosive / Nobelisk floor. It's also when we first got quartz, which we are trucking in from a not so nearby quartz node, although it's not quite as far as we're trucking in the oil, so really shouldn't talk. So here we're taking coal and sulfur, making the... Oh, or is that already compacted coal? No, it's coal and sulfur to make black powder. We're not using the alternate recipe. Over here, we're taking quartz and cable and reinforced plates and making some more crystal oscillators. Or making crystal oscillators. I don't think we're actually using them because we're not using any of the alternate recipes that use them here. But that was to make crystal oscillators, at least initially. So here we take some black powder and pipes and beacons to make the nobelisks, and yeah, we are bringing those beacons up from the first floor because we had all the materials down there rather than, we could have made them here, but that would mean belting a whole bunch of stuff up here, and it was easier because we just had all the materials down there already to make them there. But yeah, we can run all of these at, well, we get 9 a minute, and then that would go into the bottom storage, and then we'd have one machine here making cartridges at 12 per minute. And as you can see, we've made a lot, but that's not really that much in the grand scheme of things. Much later, yeah, the nuclear and bauxite update came out, and aluminum. We built this floor, and this is bringing in aluminum. Again, this is being trucked in. Oop, that wasn't good to miss. That's our quartz coming in. That's bauxite. I think that's sulfur. Yeah, that's sulfur. Yeah, so those are all coming in there and getting up our... Yeah, that's something I didn't mention. We have zigzag belts, at least until they added the belt lifts. I never changed any of the zigzag belts to lifts. If it was a zigzag and was working, I didn't see a reason to change it. So, some copper here, some quartz to make silica, quartz for quartz, some iron here that gets turned eventually into steel and pipes. We're using iron wire recipe here just because we had it for a long time at this point. These are making stators over here. This takes our bauxite and the silica and makes aluminum ingots, which we then combined with the copper to get the all-clad aluminum sheets. Then we bring in the sheets with some wire and make heat sinks in 2 machines here. And then finally, heat sinks, well, not finally actually, supercomputers from the floor below, and quartz, we're making radio control units. And then, now finally, we brought in motors from the 2nd floor downstairs, along with those stators and radio control units to make turbo motors at a brisk 2.25 per minute. And that's when we needed the second AI limiter machine down on the supercomputer floor, because this is needs the AI limiters that is making. Up until then, we were good with just supercomputers on one machine, but to supply enough for this as well, we needed a second. And yeah, that is this. But once we got trains, though, we made an extensive train network, of which you don't really see much here, but we're going to go over to that. which is our nuclear facility. And yeah, that is 144 nuclear reactors, all being fed by one factory below it, one uranium node. Using the right alternate recipes, you can get that. Let's hopefully this will work and will not run into any other trains. Yeah, so this took, let's say it took a while, quite a few episodes to set up. I actually started and wound up redesigning it after we had started on the second floor already. I didn't think the nuclear reactors would take up nearly that much space, but they do. Everything here is fed with the manifold method. I don't do perfect splitting, except for the fuel rods actually going to the nuclear power plants, because I don't want one power plant filling up on fuel rods before any of the others get any. So yeah, I did do perfect splitting there, and it's been working out. While I'm here, I'm going to put on my hazmat suit that will protect us from radiation. There is no radiation down here. We are far enough away, but by the time you get to that first floor there, we should be feeling some radiation. Unless it seems to have been better? Oh, there we go. You can see it at the top, radiation level. Not too bad. So this first floor is... Can't fly now. Basic iron and copper and deuterium, which... that's a little disconcerting. We should have your quartz. We should be getting iron from here. There should be a nuclear train. Should be nuke mats. Nuke coal. Deuterium. He got lost. Because that's the deuterium station. Basically, all of my trains are on one track except for this one, which is the nuclear uranium train. It goes into the cave that's here, and then comes, actually the track comes out here, kind of loops around, and goes, well, not to that truck station, but to this uranium drop-off. That's the only train on that track. That track doesn't merge or go anywhere else. Every other train, there's the nuke mats train. He looks stuck. I'll have to fix that. Fortunately, like I said, we're only using 1/6 of the power. So, basically, we already have backed up enough power to last me, let's say days at this point. Days of playing. But yeah, this would make iron. A lot of it would come over here and then be turned into cable with the iron cable recipe, iron wire recipe. We then come down here, and yeah, at this point the belts were 480 and all that. In fact, that's a Mark V belt. You know. Here we have other squares. I think this is just more copper to make well, copper out of. And then over here's deuterium, and then this would go up to the next floor to make quick wire. We have on either end of this stairs, although in this case they're kind of hidden in the trees here. I tried not to chop down as much nature as possible, you know, preserve as much as we could. So this would be more iron and coal for steel. We still have, like I said, we got up to the second floor and then I kind of redesigned everything. So I had a whole load of pipes here. Just, I mean, I guess I could delete them, but that's something I also tried to stay away from, is deleting items. So here we have our deuterium and copper being made into way too much quick wire. The steel would come down here and get turned into black squares, which are actually pipes. Well, if I look in here, pipes. Let's see if I can jump up here. Yeah, the quick wire went, you know, all the way down here. We got, well, we got two 780 belts going this way, and there's another 1.5 going that way. And actually, here we have a third one going this way, and then this is all pipe off of the steel. Except for these two here, we needed just a little bit of steel beams. So you can see that all goes out the side here. Let's continue to go up. Radiation still is at a manageable level. Here we would take quartz and rubber and make some circuit boards. The circuit boards would then go on to make computers. No, sorry, AI limiters. And the AI limiters would then be combined with quartz and quick wire. No. To make oscillators, the quick wire is going somewhere else. The quick wire... Yeah, this is just making quartz from the raw quartz. Here we'd be making silica with quartz and a little bit of lag. It's saving it. That is something else that they mentioned in their latest update, that they're going to be implementing cloud saves in this upcoming patch, and that the saves will finally be compressed. So, like my save, I know is over 220 megabytes, and I'm making a new one every time. But yeah, quartz and limestone to get silica at the efficient rate, or the improved efficiency rate. And those are also, you can see, yeah, we got, I think, yeah, one line. It's split up into a few lines going different directions. But that is this floor. This is oscillators. I know we needed 14 of these, and I could only fit 9 on the floor here. What were we missing here? Rubber. Good thing I've come and check in on this. I knew the trains weren't that reliable. Hopefully, once they do fix this ghost train issue, they will become more reliable. And I won't have as big an issue as I am at the moment. Ooh, 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 no, 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 I'm dead. Okay, I'm back. I have to remember watch my footing around the edges like that. Need some of these nuts. Luckily, I think that is the last sort of dangerous spot we have here. So this next floor, it's actually got a bit of open space here. This is the rest of the oscillators, quartz oscillator production. Then we have a whole big bunch of high-speed connector production here. Again, we seem to be missing rubber. I'll have to check in on. In fact, we have quite a lot of these. I think it was... I'm not sure. It was over 20. Maybe it was 28. I planned out all of this on one of the online production planners. But here, yeah, we can see we have the silica coming up here. And let's check out the next floor. This looks like, yeah, stator production. Again, some space here, but that's only because we're getting like down to the end, and we needed big builds, so you can only get 1 or 2 things on a floor instead of like the 5 or 6 that we had previously. Here we're producing some beacons, but that was it for this floor. I believe this was the last radiation-free floor, or at least I should say uranium-free floor. Oh, not quite. Here we took these stators and combined them with the high-speed connectors to get our electromagnetic control rods. As you see, our radiation levels are getting quite high at this point. Here we have basically a radiation break, a completely empty floor, basically just to add some extra space to hopefully hold back some of the radiation. But here we are bringing in the uranium and sulfur and silica and quick wire to actually make fuel cells, uranium fuel cells with the alternate recipe. And we have uranium here. Well, there you can see it nice and bright and green. And I believe that is the only thing made on this floor. We have 2 full rows, and I think an extra 2 or 3? 2. Manufacturers here and out back. As the hazmat suit filter starts wearing off, you can see the radiation levels are quite high here. This is the train station where we are bringing in the uranium. I have a... Oh, there's the train itself. Double-headed train, you know. And yeah, this track doesn't mix with any other tracks. You can see that as the train approaches, the radiation is hitting its peak. Definitely don't want to fall here. But yeah, then we took these fuel cells and brought them up 1 more floor, hoping the door... Yeah, here's the door. Where we finally put them all together and make the fuel rods with the uranium cells, the control rods, the oscillators, and beacons. And you can see we're still pumping these out. We're actually starting to go... Need to make control rods, so I'm going to have to check in on the rubber and other supplies. But we're still making plenty. We still have plenty. It's not going to run out, because those take quite a while to make. And finally, you can see the control rods come up, or the nuclear fuel rods come up here, and they get split evenly. And coming back is our nuclear waste. Basically, everything comes here. Half of it gets split up to the upper floor. It then comes... The half that comes this way then gets split left and right, and then gets split again for forward and aft. And as you can see, we have a big backup of rods here. So we'll be fine for quite a while, power-wise. But yeah, everything is split evenly, at least going in, for the waste coming out. Oop, looks like we got some saving lag again. For the waste coming out, we just pile it all onto one belt because, yeah, it doesn't really matter, and the belt is fast enough to take it away faster than we can make it. And there's no point on evening that all out. Oop. Here comes another control or fuel rod, I should say. So each of these, at least the left and right ones, I didn't think of that the center one won't have quite as big of a backup. But all of these have 50 waiting in them, so like every machine has 50 already in. Each one lasts 5 minutes. That's quite a lot of minutes. And the top floor is just the same. Let's briefly take a look at it. Actually, radiation over here is quite reasonable. Yeah, the one thing with this floor is you have all the smoke from the lower floor coming up through it. But yeah, it looks basically identical. Boy, was this... It wasn't hard to build, it was just tedious because it was basically the same thing a whole lot of times. Basically, yeah, there's 9 here, 9 there. You know, there's 36 on one half of one floor times 4. Yeah. Took a lot of repetitive building. So let's make our way to the edge here, if we can. Or actually, this edge over here might be better. Oh, I should mention, yeah, all of these are currently the waste going into a single... Well, there's actually 4 storage bins, but it hasn't even filled half of one yet. How quickly will I die if I switch this out? Not too bad. And yeah, now we're below all the radiation. So that wasn't too bad. Why didn't my train ever... A little bit of radiation here. Yeah, you're supposed to be here, train. You're a truck. You shouldn't be stuck. Yeah. That's my first base there, where we came from. So the train is still trying to get over here. That is the one issue with trains being able to switch the switches on other trains. And yeah, I have, well, there's one train here, there's another train station in the back besides my personal access one. There's a train station up here, there's one in the back above, yeah, and they're all going through like these intersections here. So yeah, not the easiest. Hopefully that is my yes, that is my train. Oh, and you missed your turn again. Somehow. Somebody else had it. That's okay, we'll go to Factory 2 now. And I'm wondering how you'll decide to go there. Alright, we're going this way, which is actually pretty good. Let's go here for a moment. Yeah, this is the material train that is... Oh, we'll go this way, actually. Somehow stuck here. Actually... Let's go back. And I'm wondering how I will Let's manually drive the train for a moment. Or 3. Unfortunately, we'll have the big unable to reach next stop message there. But it shouldn't be too bad. Switch that switch. So now we're going over and up the west coast. We'll be first passing where we're mining Caterium, at least for the main base. Initial base factory, which is right here. See, I still have a truck tracks. It's still all brought back to the main factory with the truck. So through this little forest part, we'll be out to the beach. And there's some fog, but in the distance, that's our oil islands. Basically, most of the oil products for the second factory are made there. Like I said earlier, 3 of those are making plastic, 1 rubber. But now that we have 780 belts, I can probably overclock the pumps more and actually get more out of it. But yeah, currently it's 3 480 belts of plastic and 1 of rubber. It's picked up by trains here. It was originally being picked up by trucks. You can see the truck stations kind of in the water there. But those trucks are, while they still exist and the paths still exist, they're paused or not running. Just because the train was so much more efficient. And, you know, wouldn't accidentally like fall off bridges and things like that if I was walking by them. Yeah, so this is, yeah, the big rail. I have branches going off all different places. Actually going the other way from the nuclear power plant was a few more stations, but those were all powering, or I should say providing, to the nuclear power plant. Here is my factory number 2, where we're making everything at quite a clip. And of course, we apologize for the inconvenience. The other side does it for Shack News. Yeah. So when I first built this, trains weren't in the game. I did leave room for trains because I knew they were coming. But the train stations are quite a bit... I expected something similar to the truck stations. The train stations are quite a bit taller in height, so I had to really squeeze in. Let's maybe have this train park itself. Not that it can at the moment. Yeah, so this took quite a bit of finagling, at least the trains down here. Because originally I only had 2, and now I have a whole bunch more. And they don't really fit that well, but at least for the moment I have everything I need. And in fact, there's one train station empty that can hold up to 6 cars if I need more. Yeah, I should point out, yeah, I have a lot of these slugs still around. I tried not to pick them up unless I really need them. Nothing in any of my factories, I think, except for maybe 1 or 2 small things, are overclocked. The only thing I do overclock is miners at this point. At one point, I think I was overclocking some of my coal power plants just because I need the extra power. But at this point, since the nuclear is providing so much, yeah, the only thing I have overclocked is miners. So this down here doesn't really, well, I won't say doesn't feed anything, because the miners are feeding stuff. But I was originally using this to build the materials needed to build this. So there's, like, that is all full of concrete. We have the encased industrial beams there for Mark IV belts, which is what was the best at the time I started this. We have some rods and normal plates over there for the level 1 belts and making, conveyor poles. And then we have some pipes, and then that's steel beams for Mark III belts. But I'm not really using this anymore, because at this point, this factory is making everything I need. We do have, like, rubber and oil coming in from over there. We have copper coming in on lines from that way. We have iron, some more iron coming in. You can see belts down here. We got quartz from here. We've got quartz being trained in. Copper being trained in. All bauxite being trained in. Everything. So I was saying before, we were originally trucking in the rubber. Why are you stopped? Okay, you're going on your way. Good. So these were the truck stations, and basically the way I had it, I had one truck coming through 2 different stations just so they'd both get filled up. Actually, yeah. So if we weren't using it, at least we'd have a decent backup of materials. But as you can see, we've blown through all the materials. But this because, like here, that's from the trains now. They were being merged into the same line. So everything's being provided by the trains. So here's we got 3 lines of plastic, and the one of rubber stays underneath the floor here. You can see we still have fuel going to these, so I can start them up at any time if I really need to. But here's our, well, that is a plastic station, but not the original one. Here's the original plastic train station that took over for the trucks. This was my personal station, but I needed the room, and so it's now also a limestone station. And then we have kind of a half-level station here for copper, and like a full second floor of 3 stations. Here's the one that's not being used. Then this is for plastic. This is mostly for higher tech stuff. Let's say higher than supercomputers. Which is mostly, I guess it's the radio control units and things like that. And then this is for turbo motors. Turbo motors as well. And this is half deuterium, or some deuterium, some copper, and quartz. Anyway, let's actually look at this factory, the factory part of the factory. And we can do that just... I do have ramps here. On the corner over that way is a whole bunch of jump pads. The ramps will probably be easier. And actually, there's also ramps on that corner. So here's the first floor. And here we're bringing in, this should be iron, that should be copper. We got 2 lines of iron, 2 lines of copper, and we're using the alternate iron ingot alloy They get 45 per minute per machine, and there's 60 machines here. 2 rows of 30. And there's 60 machines here. Another 2 rows of 30. Let me go down. Yeah, this also gets brought in this side. I had left this open in the middle in case I needed to route more belts up from like the truck floor. Saving. As you can see, I haven't done that. Mostly I've routed underneath the truck floor if necessary. But things are actually quite tight now with all the train stations. So let's... yeah, so this... You got a break in the middle to swap like the one lines, set of lines run out, so then it swaps the other. But each of these gets us 6 belts of iron, and not quite full belts. They're actually 480 belts, because that's what 450 belts, not 480, because that's what the belts could hold at that time. But it's pretty darn close to a, you know. And at this point, we have all of these have a buffer, so we can probably get 480 for, you know, a good hour before this runs out, because it's just like an extra 30 a minute. Which, with that buffer, yeah. So then, one floor up, we're taking quite a bit of the iron and some coal, and we're making steel. Quite a lot of it. Is it? Yeah. We got 10. Makes a whole belt of steel. Sorry. Yeah, it's 10. There's 5 and 5. Gets us 10 for a whole belt of steel that's going back that way. So that's 2. Again, it was 450 belts. And we got another 2 going this way. So we have 450 belts of steel. And what do we do with that? Oh, obviously, we turn it into black squares. No, actually, this is pipe. I believe there's 2 sets of making pipe at a crazy rate. Again, like two 450 belts of pipe out of here. Yeah, so that's quite a lot. But yeah, this is needed for the stators and rotors, because we're going to be making motors, which is what this floor does. So we're kind of at the end here, but we got 2 belts of iron that gets turned into, let's say, a lot of wire using the iron wire recipe. Yeah, I think it's close to 2,000 wire a minute. Then we combine that with some pipes to get stators. And this is using the standard recipe, I believe. Yes. But that just makes it easier because we're using the alternate recipe for the rotors, which also take the same exact ingredients. So that's convenient. So once we have all these rotors and stators, we make motors. There we go. And we have enough of these for 90 per minute. I kind of think of it that these are all on one floor, but technically, you know, we are making the steel and the iron on, you know, the floors below, but those floors are shared with, you know, the other productions also use the steel from there and the, you know, iron. So these motors eventually go up to turbo motors, but that wasn't there at first. You know, when this was done, turbo motors weren't even thought about yet. do see I have some. Well, actually, not really. Oh, there we go. There's some are zigzag belts. You can see, that was done before. We had these nice lifts that now go way up into the sky. So this is the floor for heavy modular frames, and again, this is done on one floor. So again, we have, well, the first half here, we are turning iron plates into iron wire. Actually, I guess not the first half, is the first third. And then here we have the ingots turned into plates. I should say, yeah, that's ingots into iron wire, ingots into plates, and then the wire and the plates are turned into stitched, reinforced iron frames, plates, whatever. And you can see we are resupplying this middle belt every so often, because it can only feed like 4 before it needs to be resupplied, because these take 75 per minute. So we're buffering these, and we're actually buffering some plates here. But the stitch plates then come over here, get combined with, I'm assuming that's steel pipe, yes, to make modular frames. Over here, we got steel pipe being combined with concrete, which is made at the beginning. You can see there's like a first half that all makes concrete. That is actually using the normal concrete recipe, not the alternate with silica. So this could be done a little more efficiently. I did not have the... actually, silica wasn't in the game when this was set up. So at the time, it couldn't be done any more efficiently. But yeah, so this makes encased industrial beams, which, again, we're storing here. So finally we get pipes, encased industrial beams, the modular frames, and some of the other concrete. Basically, the first half of the concrete goes around that side. And then we have, I think it's 9 manufacturers here, making 2.8 heavy modular frames each for a total of 24. And that goes into this big storage right here. Nothing at this point uses heavy modular frames. I'm guessing whatever comes next will. Of course, you need heavy modular frames to make manufacturers and trains and a bunch of stuff. So I'm, I won't say constantly, but I'm often coming here to get more, to build more infrastructure. So let's head up to the next floor. I think as I finish this is when they added quartz, only like a week later or so. So this next... No, actually quartz was already... It was... misremembering. It was just after I finished this, well, next set of 3 floors that they added the Nobelisk stuff. But this is the beginning of the supercomputers, which of course needed quartz. So this is all... Well, we got smelting of deuterium and copper here. The deuterium came down... Oh, there's copper coming down this side. The deuterium comes from that side. Plus, I think we have copper from that side. Or no, it's only 2 to 1. You're right. You're right. Whatever. Yeah. So here is a lot. Let's say it's 30 per side. So 60 machines all making quick wire. We get 12 480 belts of quick wire out of this. So there's 3 here, 3 there, and then on, from the halfway point, there's 6, 3 on each side, also going that way. And that is all the quick wire we need. In fact, it's a little more because we had some being buffered here and not used. But hey, now we're using that up all the way up for some, or maybe it was over here. whatever. However it's going up, yeah, we're using that for some of the turbo motor stuff. Probably should have started on this end of the floor over there, but we're bringing in lots of materials here. Mainly, this looks like copper wire. Oh, iron to make copper wire out of. Some of it goes over to this whole section here. We're making cable. Over here, we have some of the copper wire being combined with rubber to make circuit boards. The rubber was coming in from the trucks originally. We then have the circuit boards coming, and this should be AI limiters, using some of the quick wire. And then here we have quartz, rubber, and the AI limiters, some of the AI limiters, making the crystal oscillators, though it looks like we're out of rubber, and I'm not sure how. This should be... oh, this is not the belted-in rubber. This is the trucked/trained-in rubber. I'm gonna have to check on that train. I'm gonna have to check on a bunch of trains. Yeah, hopefully those trains fixes they said that are coming will fix the issues I'm having with trains. Anyway, up to the next floor. Over here, the rest of the quick wire is combined with cables and plastic to make high-speed connectors, and there's like 24 of these or something. A lot. Here we're making computers out of the circuit boards and the oscillators using the alternate recipe, and this is really nice because not only is it making 2.5 per minute, but it's using the small machines, so you can fit a lot in a small space. So then finally you take the computers, you take the AI limiters, you take high-speed connectors and the plastic, and you get supercomputers. And we're making 24 of these a minute, and they're going in here. At least if the belt's animated, they would. Of course, we're now using about 14 of these a minute to make the radio control units for the... Oop, there, hey, look at that, it updated. For turbo motors, but we're still having net positive of 10 a minute. Yeah, so then I said, as we finish this floor, I think it was just a week later, it wasn't too long, that they added the noblest detonators. So, of course, that's what the next floor is dedicated to. Actually, I should say the next two floors, because, hey, at this point we're using all our steel and we need to make more, so we are bringing up more iron and coal and making more steel, which we then turn into pipes, of course, because the detonators are made out of pipes and explosives. In fact, this is the rest. I think there's 100 manufacturers, or I should say constructors, for steel pipes here, because we're making so many. Oop. Of course, none are being used at the moment because I'm making detonators and cartridges at a crazy rate that there's nowhere near, I can't, it'd be impossible to use them as quickly as I'm making them, even for several players. So let's check it out up here, which should be final assembly. No, this won't be final assembly. Well, it sort of is. So here we're making the black powder out of compacted coal and sulfur. I think we were making previous floor. I must have, or no, it's one half we're making the compacted coal out of, and then the other half we're making the actual black powder, I think. Or maybe we're making the compacted coal on the floor below and I just didn't notice. Yeah, I think that's what it was. So finally, we come over here with the black powder, steel pipes, and crystal oscillators. Now this, we're making enough crystal oscillators for the supercomputers, or for this, but not enough to run both. I mean, we're making more than just enough for the computers, but it's not enough to run this at full speed. Luckily, this hardly ever runs at full speed, because this is making 200 Nobelisk detonators a minute. It would be hard to use them that quickly. Yeah, so the Nobelisk detonators, they come over here. You know, we're getting... You can see that we have 3 rows of these things. They all get merged together here, and they actually go up to the next floor. If the game stops lagging. Alright. Hopefully that will be the last time, because we're getting near the end. So, the detonators come in here. We have a giant storage of them. Then they get combined over here with more steel to make cartridges. And yeah, we are making 800 cartridges a minute. You can't fire them that quickly. Basically, you know, 1, 2, 3. We can fill 2 rows of this in a minute. I'm not going to turn them all on now because we have enough lag, but yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then after that, there was a week or 2 where there was nothing. But then the nuclear and train update came out, and that's when I started working on the nuclear plant. Finally, when that was done, I came back here, and this is where we're making aluminum sheets. Have to train in bauxite, which apparently is missing right now or something. No, actually, it's the quartz train that's missing. Because this should be quartz. We actually do have quartz. We're making silica here. This was actually just a few episodes ago, although it feels longer than that. So we're making silica here. Here we're smelting copper. No, this is the bauxite. It's just... That's the bauxite. It's squares. It looked like copper to me. So that's the aluminum ingots. Those are the smelters for copper. And then that gets... Okay, that's copper. That should be copper ore. How did bauxite get on that conveyor belt? I think I messed something up. I'll have to fix this. I'm not sure what happened. Anyway, the copper and aluminum are supposed to come over here. And, yeah, this makes 780 all-clad aluminum sheets a minute. Assuming we're feeding copper into those smelters and not bauxite. So that comes down here, and we do two things with it. Actually, yeah, I just remembered. I never showed off the battery production at my first factory, but there was basically one manufacturer making batteries, and I don't even think it was running at full speed. Anyway, here is our battery floor. Well, I won't say it's our battery floor. We got some manufacturers here making batteries. It's 12 of them. I think we're making 50 batteries a minute. I actually haven't tried out the batteries to see how much power they provide, but apparently they act as fuel for trucks. But that's their only use at the minute, as far as I know. The rest of this floor is preparing for turbo motors. So we have iron coming down here, going into some of these foundries to make some steel, so that we can then make what else but pipes over here. But that iron is also used for iron wire over here. There's actually, yeah, the pipe production keeps going on. So the iron wire, or I should say copper wire, the wire, and the steel makes stators, which you need for the turbo motors. We have some additional copper and deuterium smelting. The copper and deuterium gets turned into quick wire. I should show off first that we have rubber coming up, and that also gets combined with some of the wire here for the circuit boards. And then finally we take the deuterium and circuit boards over here to make AI limiters. And that does it for this floor. So let's get over to the exit and up to what is currently the last floor. Yes, thank you. I will take that under consideration. Finally, the turbo motor floor. Yeah, this is quite complex. Well, so here we take some raw quartz, turn it into usable quartz, or refined quartz, or whatever they want to call it. Down here we have more wire production, as you can see. And then the wire comes over here with some all-clad aluminum sheets from below to make heat sinks. We take supercomputers from below, and of course we take those supercomputers, combine them with the heat sinks and the quartz to get our radio control units, which finally come over here with the stators, the AI limiters, and the motors from below, and get turned into turbo motors. And we're making 33 of these a minute, which uses 88 of our 90 motors per minute that we're making. So we're basically feeding all the motors into this. But of course you can see, yeah, we kind of ran out of aluminum plates because it looks like I misrouted a belt that should have had copper, but it now has the why can't I just think of it? Because I just said it. The aluminum ore, but it really starts with a B, and it is. Bauxite. Okay. Well, this has gone on quite a bit longer than I thought it would, and I didn't even explain, like, the incredible train network I have. Hey, that's going off to get limestone, and we go down into that cave to get quartz, and we have a train station all the way over there for copper, and, like, this goes all the way back here for our oil, and I didn't even show off, I probably won't even be able to see, but there was some oil patches over there that I was using for power, making not just fuel, but the turbo fuel, using the fuel and some compressed coal, running, I don't know how many power generator plants, but a lot. Basically as many as I could get from, yeah, it's way over there, 3 regular nodes. Let's see if I can... Oh, you can't even see it. That is, we're also getting Caterium from over there, but the fuel was kind of behind the cliff here. You can't see it because obviously the cliff is there. But yeah, we're getting stuff from all over. I believe I've tapped every oil node in the world, even though it's over here. But, like, we're not really using these much anymore. This was, well, producing power. You know, there is some power here, but this wasn't turbo fuel. This is just regular fuel. And, yeah, well, we could dismantle all this and use this oil for something else because, well, the nuclear power's supplying it all now. But, yeah, this is a good start, I think. I apparently have to fix a few things. I have to get my trains working. That was the shadow of our space elevator going by there. Does that every day. And I have to figure out what happened with that copper line. But otherwise, doing okay. But I just can't wait to see what they add next into this game and what the end game will be. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Hopefully when there's more content in the game. But I might do something in between if it is a long wait. I'm expecting, though, it's probably going to be at least a month until we get more content. But I'm planning other videos in the meantime. So, I'll say thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time with more Satisfactory or something else that's interesting. See you then.